When Barron Trump, son of former President Donald Trump, crossed the doors of one of New York's most luxurious restaurants, the atmosphere immediately seemed to change. Amid the sophisticated lighting and the discreet murmur of conversations, he entered with his tall and imposing figure. But it was a specific detail that attracted all eyes: a red cap with the phrase, "Make America Great Again," emblazoned in white letters. For some, it was just an accessory. For others, a symbol of political division. What happened next was not just an unexpected confrontation, but an event that would cause a true uproar, involving everyone from the establishment's manager to the city's residents, who couldn't stop talking about what had occurred. It was a typically sunny afternoon in Los Angeles, where the golden glow of the sun seemed to invite anyone to slow down and enjoy the moment. Barron Trump, now in the final phase of his teenage years, decided to do just that after a quiet morning of reading. He chose to treat himself to a special lunch and selected the renowned restaurant LA Terrace, famous not only for its sophisticated cuisine, but also for the aura of exclusivity that attracted an elite clientele. It was the type of place where every table seemed to hold stories of celebrities, magnates, and influencers. Barron had visited the restaurant on other occasions, always appreciating the serenity of the environment and the impeccable service. As he crossed the glass doors, his presence immediately drew attention. His tall stature was already notable, but it was the red cap with the inscription "Make America Great Again" that truly stood out. He wore it naturally, like someone wearing a comfortable piece with no intention to provoke, but merely expressing part of his identity. For Barron, the cap was not just a political accessory, but a symbol of his connection to his family's beliefs, worn without pretense or challenge. The restaurant's hostess, a polite and impeccably dressed woman, led him to a discreet table near the corner. The environment was relatively calm, with some customers savoring wine while conversing in low tones. Barron opened the menu with a serene expression, flipping through familiar options in search of his favorite dish. He was completely unaware that at other tables, whispers were beginning to arise. A man whispered something to his companion, while waiters at the bar exchanged furtive glances, clearly uncomfortable with what they considered a provocation in a space where politics were rarely mentioned. The restaurant manager, a refined-looking man in his 40s, observed the scene from afar before deciding to intervene. Walking with quick and firm steps, he approached Barron's table with an expression that mixed determination and nervousness. His voice cut through the murmur of the environment. "Excuse me," he began, loud enough for other customers to hear. "We have a policy against attire with political connotations in this establishment. I'm going to have to ask you to remove your hat." Barron looked up from the menu, surprised but not intimidated. Calmly, he removed the headphones he was wearing and placed them on the table before responding. "I didn't know there was such a policy," he said, in a tone that was both polite and firm. The manager, clearly uncomfortable with the exchange, insisted. "It's in our code of conduct," he stated, vaguely pointing to the entrance. "We want to ensure this is a neutral space for all our customers." Barron maintained his composure, his expression calm as he pondered the situation. He looked around the restaurant, noticing that some customers pretended not to pay attention, while others watched openly, curious about the unfolding. "I didn't come here to cause problems," he replied in a controlled tone. "I just want to have lunch." But the manager did not back down. His stance became even more rigid. "If you don't remove the hat, I'll have to ask you to leave." For a moment, silence took over the restaurant. Everyone seemed to hold their breath as they watched the exchange. Barron, with an inscrutable expression, finally stood up. He gathered his belongings and calmly said, "If that's your decision, I'll leave." He walked away, leaving behind an untouched glass of water and an atmosphere charged with tension. When the glass doors closed behind him, the room fell into an uncomfortable silence, as if everyone was reflecting on what had just happened. Outside, Barron paused for a moment, feeling the warm Los Angeles breeze touch his face. He adjusted the red cap slightly, reaffirming his decision to wear it. He wasn't angry, but he couldn't deny a feeling of frustration and disappointment. To him, what had happened seemed to go against the principles of kindness and respect his family had always valued. Inside the restaurant, the tension was growing. Murmurs echoed among the customers as one of the waiters discreetly leaned in to whisper to the manager, "Do you think that was a good idea? He's Trump's son." The manager, clearly bothered, shrugged. "We can't make exceptions. If we let it go, we'll send the wrong message. This is my restaurant and I run it the way I think is best." Meanwhile, Barron walked a few blocks to a small park. Sitting on an empty bench, he took his phone out of his pocket and began writing messages to friends and family, recounting what had happened. He wasn't seeking sympathy, but clarity. "Did I overreact? Was the manager justified?" he asked. The responses came quickly. "This is absurd," wrote a friend. "They shouldn't have treated you that way." Another commented, "You handled it much better than I would have." As he read the supportive messages, an idea began to take shape in his mind. He wasn't interested in revenge or scandals. Instead, he saw an opportunity to promote something constructive, something that could turn the situation into a lesson of unity and understanding. Determined, he started making calls, his voice calm but resolute. "Hey, I need your help with something," he said, initiating what would be a series of steps to put his plan into action. Inside the restaurant, however, the discomfort only grew. The story was already beginning to spread on social media. Customers who witnessed the scene started sharing photos and accounts of the incident. "They kicked Barron Trump out for wearing a MAGA hat," one post said, accompanied by a shaky image. "It seems freedom of expression isn't welcome at LA Terrace," another person commented. The manager, now sitting at the bar and frantically scrolling through his phone, began to feel a knot of worry growing in his stomach. The comment sections were getting increasingly intense, and not all opinions were favorable. "Let them talk," the manager muttered to himself, trying to ignore the growing sense of regret. But deep down, he knew the situation was rapidly unfolding beyond his control. Meanwhile, Barron Trump was heading home unaware that the incident was already starting to make a significant impact in the virtual world. Some local influencers captured the story and shared it on their social networks, with captions ranging from support to polarization. Despite the online buzz, Barron refused to dwell on the comments. Feeding the drama or intensifying divisions was not something that interested him. He had another idea in mind: to turn the negativity into something constructive. Sitting at his work desk, Barron opened a leather notebook and began jotting down ideas. He reflected on the interactions he had that day, not only with the manager, but also with the people around, the judging looks, the contained whispers. He wondered how he could turn that experience into an opportunity to promote dialogue instead of conflict. It didn't take long for an idea to take shape: organize a fundraiser. But it wouldn't be a simple fundraiser. Barron wanted the event to carry a powerful message of unity and understanding, something that could make a difference in a time of so much division. The idea was to create an event that served both to support underserved communities and to encourage dialogue. He decided that the focus should be on building safe spaces where people with different perspectives could gather and find common ground. Picking up the phone, he made a call. "Hi, this is Barron Trump. I need some advice on how to organize a charity event." "Yes, it's urgent. Can we meet tomorrow?" The person on the other end seemed surprised but agreed quickly. As the night progressed, Barron's plan began to take shape. He decided that the ideal location for the event would be in front of LA Terrace itself. The symbolism was clear, showing that even in places of conflict, it was possible to build bridges instead of walls. With the help of a close friend, Barron began organizing the logistics. Within a few hours, preparations were underway. Meanwhile, in the restaurant, the consequences of the manager's decision continued to intensify. The incident had become a public debate, with the media beginning to cover the case. Eyewitness accounts emerged in various articles, presenting contrasting versions of the events. Some publications portrayed Barron as a victim of intolerance, while others defended the restaurant's right to enforce its policies. On social media, the restaurant's page was flooded with comments. While some praised the manager's stance, others called for boycotts, accusing the establishment's policy of being contradictory. "Neutral? Expelling someone is not neutrality, it's taking sides," said a popular comment, generating hundreds of reactions. Inside the restaurant, The atmosphere was tense, reservations began to be cancelled, and the restaurant's traffic was visibly lower. The manager, who initially was confident that his decision was correct, began to struggle with doubts. He kept telling himself that this would pass, but the weight of the criticism was already starting to affect him. The next morning, the block in front of LA Terrace began to transform into something completely different. Trucks unloaded equipment while volunteers set up tables, banners, and a small stage. At the center of all the activity was Barron, overseeing the preparations with calm determination. Above the stage, a banner read in bold letters, "United we stand, building bridges, not walls." Barron had reached out to several organizations that promoted inclusion initiatives, youth mentoring, and community dialogue. The event was planned to go beyond raising funds. It was about creating a vibrant space where people from different walks of life could connect. Food trucks lined the sidewalks, while live music created a lively atmosphere. Stands from local charities displayed information about their work, and the crowd began to grow around noon. There were families, young professionals, activists, and even familiar faces from social media who came to check out the event. Barron took to the stage to address the audience. With the microphone in hand, his voice was steady but full of emotion. "Yesterday I was asked to leave this restaurant for wearing a hat," he began, looking out at the crowd. "That's okay, I respect their policies, even if I don't agree with them. But what really impacted me was something bigger than that. I realized how quick we have become to judge each other, to shut down conversations before they even begin. This is not who we are. We can be better." The crowd erupted in applause, encouraging him to continue. "This event is not about me nor about the restaurant," he continued. "It's about all of us. It's about finding ways to listen, to understand, and to unite. The funds raised today will go to programs that foster dialogue and inclusion. Thank you for being here, proving that unity is stronger than division." The applause grew louder, and Barron left the stage to shake hands and personally thank the participants. His calm demeanor and meaningful words resonated deeply with those present. Many who had come out of curiosity left the venue feeling inspired, as if they had witnessed something truly significant. Inside LA Terrace, the contrast with the lively scene outside was striking. The manager stood by the window, silently watching the unfolding event. He never imagined that Barron Trump would respond to being kicked out in such a way, with so much dignity and positivity. The internal conflict he had been ignoring was now undeniable. Some of his staff, unable to resist the contagious sound of music and the sense of camaraderie emanating from the event, had already joined the crowd, participating in the fundraiser. One of the waiters, who had witnessed the incident the day before, returned to the bar and cautiously approached the manager. "You should go talk to him," the waiter said in a low but firm tone. The manager, in response, hardened his expression. "This is not my fight," he retorted, trying to maintain his stance. "Maybe it's not," the waiter replied, shrugging, "but it's definitely your chance." These words resonated more deeply than the manager was willing to admit. He didn't respond, but his expression softened. Taking a glass of water, he turned his eyes back to the scene outside. Something about the event's energy was drawing him in, though he didn't want to openly acknowledge it. Meanwhile, outside, the fundraiser event continued to gain momentum. It had become the talk of the moment, with live streams, photos, and hashtags like Dada Building Bridges and United We Will Win dominating social media. Barron's conciliatory and inspiring approach was being widely praised. The event attracted not only local residents, but also news crews, capturing the crowd's vibe and Barron's emotional speeches. Inside the restaurant, however, the scene was very different. The dining room, which was usually always full, seemed abandoned. Many tables previously booked weeks in advance were empty. The few customers who remained there seemed distracted, looking outside with curiosity, as if they were missing something significant. One of the servers approached the manager hesitantly. "Some customers have been asking about the event outside," he said. "They think it looks amazing. Maybe we should participate." The manager, with a tense jaw, did not respond. He simply retreated to the office, closing the door behind him firmly. Sitting at his desk, he stared at the computer screen where dozens of emails were piling up. Customer complaints, cancellation notices, and direct criticisms from the local media. One email in particular caught his attention. It was from a regular customer who had always shown support for the restaurant. "I've always loved LA Terrace," the message read, "but what happened yesterday was disappointing. Expelling someone for their personal beliefs is not the neutrality you claim to uphold. It's divisive. I hope you find a way to fix this." The words hit the manager hard. He leaned back in his chair, running his hand through his hair. For the first time, he allowed himself to confront the truth. Was his decision to expel Barron really about neutrality? Or was it about something deeper, something he didn't want to admit even to himself? Outside, the event was reaching its peak. A local jazz band filled the air with vibrant music, while children painted murals at a community art booth. Donation boxes were overflowing with generous contributions. Barron was everywhere, greeting people, listening to their stories, and even posing for selfies. He seemed completely at ease, radiating genuine confidence without any sign of arrogance. As the sun set, bathing the scene in a golden glow, a murmur swept through the crowd. All eyes turned to the restaurant doors, where the manager had finally emerged. He hesitated on the steps, nervously adjusting his tie, before walking toward Barron. The crowd made way, and the noise subsided as everyone watched attentively. Barron noticed his approach and offered a polite smile. He remained steady, showing no sign of hesitation, extending his hand in greeting. The manager paused for a moment, but eventually shook Barron's hand. "I'd like to talk," he said, almost in a whisper. Barron nodded. "Of course," he replied, gesturing toward a quieter corner of the event. The two walked side by side, with the crowd watching them respectfully, giving them space. They stopped in a more secluded area, where the sound of music and conversations was less intense. The manager took a deep breath before speaking. "I need to start by saying that I didn't handle what happened yesterday well," he admitted, his voice low and filled with regret. "I thought I was doing the best for my team and my restaurant, but now I realize I made a mistake. I judged you and acted out of fear, not fairness." Barron listened attentively, his expression calm and encouraging. "Admitting that takes courage," he said after a moment of reflection. "Thank you for sharing that with me." The manager sighed, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. "Watching what you did here today is humbling," he continued. "Caillou could have retaliated, used it against me, but instead, you turned everything into something positive. You don't see that every day." Barron offered a slight smile. "I don't think the world needs more anger," he replied. "What happened yesterday could have deepened divisions, but I wanted to show that there's a better way." The manager nodded slowly. "You did, and I'd like to help in any way I can. If there's anything I or the restaurant can do, let me know." Barron paused for a moment before responding. "The best way to contribute is to rethink how we treat each other. Maybe LA Terrace could host an event like this, something that brings people together instead of driving them apart." The manager was surprised, but soon smiled. "I think that's an excellent idea. Let's make it happen." They shook hands again, this time with palpable sincerity. The crowd, noticing the moment, began to applaud. It wasn't a forced applause, but a genuine celebration of what everyone there had witnessed.